All right, boys and girls. So this week we are going to be learning about inherited traits and learned behaviors. And as it says at the bottom, some things we are just born with and some things we learn along the way. So, uh, one thing that we talk about, with traits, we're thinking about things like, being tall or eye color, hair color, the fact that, we have two hands. Uh, those are all different traits that we inherit from our parents. And so, some traits are inherited from parent to offspring, but some behaviors are kind of learned during an organism's lifetime. Like, for example, you learned how to read. And that was something you weren't born with knowing how to do. You had to be taught how to read. And so that is something that you learned along the way. So, inherited traits are things such as hair color, the shape of a beak, spines on a cactus. Those are all things that are inherited. There is genetic code that is passed along from parents to offspring that is called DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. You will learn more about that in seventh grade science when you do life science again. But yeah, DNA is passed from parents to offspring. And so that's why those little tiger cubs look like the parent tiger cubs. Okay. And so, same thing as far as what those tigers need is the same thing that the parent tigers needed and those parents tigers needed, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So, like in the picture here, the parent tiger is a carnivore, and its children, the tiger cubs, will be carnivores as well. And so that is something that is passed on. That is an inherited trait. So it's not just how it looks, it's also its actions as well. So here we have a daffodil plant, and daffodils are flowers, and they have the same root system, the same style of leaves, uh, the same color flowers as the parent plants as well. And so remember that plants pass along their seeds, they get spread by birds or just in the wind. The wind blows, and those seeds can blow in the wind. They fall on the ground, they get covered up. Eventually, it rains, and then here comes a new daffodil growing. And so those are inherited traits as far as how it looks the same or very similar to the parent plants. So it's not just animals; it's plants as well. So here are some examples of inherited traits. You have hair and skin color. You have dimples right there with a young child there in the center. You have eye color. You have being tall, and it's not just for people, it's also for plants. Like these palm trees are very tall. That is an inherited trait. So if you were to plant a new palm tree from one of these palms, it would grow up to be tall as well. Okay, it would not just suddenly be short. Here you have a blue bonnet in the middle. That's the flower shape, boys and girls, with blue bonnets. And, blue bonnets are not suddenly going to have seeds that grow a tulip. That would just not make sense. And then you have pumpkin seeds on the bottom right. And those are just kind of the shape of those seeds. They're very different than other seeds like sunflower seeds or even acorns that fall from an oak tree. So these are all inherited traits. So we can talk about what's called acquired characteristics, and that includes learned behaviors, like when you learn how to ride a bike, or animals learning tricks. Like if you go to some show and a seal is balancing a ball on its nose, that's definitely a learned behavior. But this area also includes physical characteristics that, like you see highlighted there, like a scar. When you learn to ride a bike, chances are you fell down at one point and you may have gotten a scar, or something may have happened to you along the way. Maybe you were running or something like that and you fell and you got a scar. That is definitely something that is acquired. That scar was not passed down to you from your parents. That's something that happened to you along the way of life. And so, the bottom left picture, you see an acquired characteristic there. That's a scar on a tree. And so, one thing to know is that when a tree is pruned, and when it's pruned, that means that its branches are cut. It leaves kind of a circular area. And over time, over a few years, the tree will actually try to heal itself over where it was pruned and close in that hole with the bark. And so eventually, you won't even see that area right there. This tree bark will completely go around and close in that whole area, and that's so it can heal itself. But that scar will always be there. So, with learned behaviors, learned behaviors, these cubs here that you have, they are going to definitely learn different things from the lion mom here, the lioness. They are going to be learning how to hunt and how to look for food and things like that. It's going to learn that from its mom. Okay. And so here at the bottom right, you have a young lady that is putting out silverware and plates for the table, showing good manners. And, I think we all know, kids, that we are not born with good manners. That is something that we have to learn. So it's something that, we learn along the way. It's not something that we're born with. And so these are examples of learned behaviors. So, some more examples of learned behaviors. You have a bear here that is learning how to catch salmon that swim upstream. That is something that it watches other bears do, like perhaps its mother. And then it learns how to catch those, and then it can go ahead and do it for themselves. At the bottom picture here, you have a bear that finds food in a garbage can. Bears are not born knowing, hey, go look for a garbage can because people leave stuff behind that you can eat. No, it doesn't work like that. They're not born knowing that, boys and girls. They actually have learned that along the way. So now what many parks do is use these bear-proof garbage bins where you kind of have to like lift this little latch and then you have to do something else to actually lift the container open because bears are not able to actually do that to be able to get inside. So here you see yours truly. This was a few years ago when we were camping in Colorado. We had this canvas trash can that I had bought at a local sporting goods store down here and uh, took it up there in our camper along the way. And we had some yummy hamburgers I'd made outside the camper the day before. And went ahead and put all the paper plates and the trash and everything in the little trash can. And this one had a zipper. I thought, yeah, go ahead and zip it up. Don't want any ants getting inside the trash can. That would be gross. So went in and zipped it up and closed the camper door and then went to sleep. About 12 o'clock midnight, Mrs. Touchstone said, hey, do you hear that? And I said, well, here's something. And we just thought it was a pickup truck that was kind of revving up its engine, but it sounded really close. And we didn't open up the door. We went back to sleep. Well, the next morning, sun's out, open up the door, go outside, and I see trash everywhere all over the ground. And take a look at the side of that canvas trash can there and how it's just been ripped up to shreds. You see, boys and girls, the bear could not figure out the zipper, but he was armed with some pretty sharp claws that he was able to sink into that and rip apart and get inside to what the bear had wanted. And so, boys and girls, you see, this bear learned that I had provided an easy food source for it. Okay. But I learned to never ever store trash outside our camper in the night in the mountains anymore because of bears. And so, now I have learned not to do that. And the bear learned, hey, that's an easy way. So the bear started looking for things like that. But too bad for him because I don't do that anymore. So you see, these are learned behaviors, boys and girls. Now, for an acquired characteristic in plants, boys and girls, you may notice that if you have plants that are planted near like a fence or a brick wall of your house or something like that, that the plant doesn't grow toward the fence or the brick wall. They actually grow away from that because they're actually trying to grow toward the sun. Boys and girls, here you see on the picture on the right these flowers that are kind of pointing themselves in the direction of the sunlight. You also see these sunflowers down there that are also growing toward the sun. So these are examples of plants having different characteristics that they kind of learn along the way, like where's the sun? So then they're going to kind of move themselves toward that, kind of move their stems that way. So, boys and girls, I hope you have enjoyed learning about inherited traits and learned behaviors along with these acquired characteristics. And feel free to send me or your science teacher an email if you have any questions about these. And good luck on the questions below. Bye bye.